Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Yes, I am the founder and editor-in-chief of The Gaming Gang. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Monday, November 9th, 2020. This is episode 569 of The Daily Dope. This is your first time joining me, welcome aboard. Kick back, relax. This is very, very casual. We're just talking tabletop gaming around here, so it's not rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. For those out there who are joining me, once again, my constant viewers, thank you very much for tuning in and keeping me company as usual. So do want to mention, if you end up liking this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because it will not only let you know when the Daily Dope streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my review of Crusader Kingdoms, which went up earlier today. In fact, about an hour and a half ago is when I actually rolled this one out there. So, by all means, ring that little notification bell, because it will let you know what's cooking, what's going on. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. So this is a live stream. So that also means that there is chat available on YouTube. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, please chime in and I will do my best to respond. Sometimes the chat zips by pretty quickly. So, like I said, I do my best. Sometimes things flash on past. Anyway, so far tonight, a Gray Day was first out the gate and saying hello in chat. John Vogel is with us as well, hanging out tonight. So I've got a good chunk of tabletop gaming news we're going to jump into in just a little bit. Thank goodness, for all intents and purposes, the election is over. Whew. Boy, I tell you, I just don't know. I don't know. I'm very happy about the outcome. Of course, I really don't. I try to stay away from politics and things like that. All I said last week before that was, hey, go vote. I didn't tell you who to go vote for. I just said go vote. But I am very happy with the outcome. So we shall see. But for those out there who might be watching who voted for the non-winning candidate, I know how you feel. I only have to look back 4 years. I know exactly how you feel. So I am not one of these people who is going to be like, oh, yeah, up yours. No, not at all. Not at all. So we're all Americans. We got to work together. And I think it's important that people start remembering that, especially in the midst of this pandemic that is just going to get worse. All right, next item. If you're waiting for my first look at Tasha's Cauldron of Everything for Dungeons and Dragons, the wait continues because it still has not arrived, which I find kind of unusual. I find that kind of weird As far as I understand, the book has not been delayed at all. There was kind of that leak that took place that was through, I think it was D&D Beyond, but I'm pretty positive the entire book didn't leak out. It was just what was in it. It wasn't, the specifics. As far as I know, I might be wrong. I'm too busy to actually look into all this, right? It's like, I don't run a channel that's just Dungeons and Dragons, right? I cover a slew of different companies and genres and types of games. So kind of surprised though that I have not seen it yet. But I will say, once it does arrive, if it arrives, I will have a video out the day it comes out. I'm usually really fast at getting those first look videos out for the Dungeons and Dragons books because they drive a lot of traffic. Maybe not so much this one because it's not an adventure book. It's not kind of a setting book. It's just sort of optional material. So I don't know. We'll find out. It's kind of a Volo's Guide to Everything, except it's Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Nice. And of course, as I mentioned, Crusader Kingdoms, The War for the Holy Land from Worthington Publishing. Got that review out there as well. I know there were some people who were kind of curious about that game. I share my thoughts about it. I liked it. The gang and I liked it. I like the fact that it's got the solitaire aspect to it as well as some other items too. So it looks like we are dropping frames again tonight. Damn it. And it looks like it is quite a lot. Man, I swear. All right, let me see. I'm pretty sure. All right, let's take a look here. Yeah, it's... I don't know. Let's try that. See if that changes something up. I doubt it, but worth a shot. It was worth a shot. So, taking a look at chat. There we go. I was going to say, kind of weird. A little bit of time's gone by. Nobody said anything. Said Chad Vogel is it because I'm watching live? No, it's not. Somebody, of course, is streaming upstairs, but you know what I think it might have something to do with, too, is if somebody's watching something on YouTube, if they're streaming on YouTube to a television, that's eating up a lot of bandwidth, but our download's pretty good. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So it looks like it may have kind of evened out now. But it's strange. I mean, we'll have some nights where we don't have a single drop frame. We have other nights there might be a couple of hundred drop frames, which is nothing. But I don't know. Every once in a while, we're getting some serious choppage. All right. Anyway, let's jump on into the news. Because first off, Story Machine Games has a theme park with a twist. It's on the horizon. I've got the dope on Danger Park. It just cracks me. I keep thinking Danger Island. Danger Park. The easy part. Build a theme park as a team and make as much money as possible. The hard part. The theme park is a dangerous death trap full of mayhem, negligence, and fraud. Take turns placing rides in a collectively built amusement park. Patrons are placed and move through the park based on ride exits, and each patron generates money for the different ride owners. Using the unique abilities of rides and park improvements, players move patrons, block exits, and most importantly, add danger in the form of vomit, pets, flooding, electrical failure, and more in order to influence die rolls. High rolls show satisfaction and keep patrons on rides. Low rolls create additional danger and force patrons out to other rides. Additionally, insurance policies can be taken to benefit from certain poor outcomes, encouraging direct sabotage for profit. When the park finally closes due to poor quality, rides closing, or patron injury, the player with the most money wins. Take the biggest risk, snatch the biggest reward, and get away with it in Danger Park. Danger Park is for 2 to 4 players, ages 13 and up. Plays in around 45 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $50 when it arrives in January. So I've got to say, I found this kind of funny. I really do. I think this is kind of interesting. I'm like, aha. Well then. So, hang on. I'm taking a look to see what we've got here. Yeah, okay. Looks like we may have studied the stream out a bit. But I tell you, that's super frustrating too. The worst is when the stream disconnects for a few seconds and then has to reconnect. It's crazy. All right. So this is coming in January from Story Machine Games. I like the artwork, the art style. I get a kick out of the cover, the box cover. It's like a parent, and it's like a dad with his daughter pulling her. He looks all panicked and she's crying. It's like, yeah. All right. Okie dokie. All right, changing gears. There's an interesting game coming from Cogito, ergo, Meeple. It's arriving in Q2 of next year. I've got the dope on Philosophia. Dare to be wise. What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. It's a quote from Pericles, circa 495, 429 BCE. Live an epic Odyssey adventure as one of ancient Greece's greatest thinkers in this new sandbox tabletop experience. Forge your destiny in an age of city-states and ancient wisdom. In Philosophia, you will build schools, battle it out in public debates, learn profound wisdom, and make deals with the Olympic gods. Wouldn't that be Olympian gods? All in an attempt to prove yourself the greatest mind of the era. The goal in Philosophia is to gain 3 labyrinth tokens before the ancient Greek world is superseded by the Romans. There are many different paths you can take to do this, from building schools dedicated to your teachings to locking yourself away in temples to develop your ideas. All players who gain 3 labyrinth tokens will finish the game with a tense final public debate, exchanging sophistry and syllogic arguments until one thinker is crowned the greatest. Good luck. Philosophia has been carefully designed to be a replayable game with premium components. Philosophia Dare to be Wise is for 1 to 6 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 45 minutes to 2 hours. Obviously, that's got to do with number of players. Higher player count's going to lead to a longer play time. It's also going to carry an MSRP of $79 when it arrives next year. As far as I understand, I believe this is Q2. So could be March, April, May, who knows? Actually, it's more April, May, June, really, because March would still be in Q1. All right. Do you know how the quarters work here in the year, Jeff? It's like, duh. So I was talking about last week, GMT has 4 new games that are shipping. We've talked about 2 of them so far. Here's the third, because now available from GMT is a new Battle of the Bulge monster game. Here's the dope on A Time for Trumpets. A Time for Trumpets, ATFT, should just be ATT, is a battalion level game of the Battle of the Bulge. The game system incorporates a number of concepts from 2 highly playable games on the same subject. Bitter Woods by the Avalon Hill Game Company and the iconic, I need a sip here, yikes. Plus there's hair blowing around here for some strange cat hair, of course. For some strange reason, it's like, what do we have, a breeze in here suddenly? Anyway, the game system incorporates a number of concepts from two highly playable games on the same subject. Bitter Woods by the Avalon Hill Game Company and the iconic, yes, that's the word I was trying to say, battalion level Wacht am Rhein from SPI in 1977. In addition, the command and control concepts devised for TAHGC version of the Siege of Jerusalem were utilized. Most of the ground combat units in ATFT are battalion-sized combat units. The battalion is homogeneous with regard to mission and functionality, because an infantry battalion is comprised primarily of infantry companies. A tank battalion is comprised primarily of, you guessed it, tank companies, etc. A battalion-based game is designed with differentiation inherent to the system, whereas a regimental level game is designed with integration inherent to the system. For example, in a battalion level game, Comp Group Piper, I think it's Piper, but it's not spelled like Piper, will include at least two separate panzer battalions, a panzer grenadier battalion, an anti-aircraft battalion, and an artillery battalion. Whereas in a regimental level game, KGP will be comprised of one counter representing all the aforementioned units. The divisional compositions include HQ, the frontline battalions, and the combat support battalions, recon, engineers, anti-tank, anti-aircraft, and artillery. The individual field battalions perform game functions that attempt to simulate the battlefield actions of their real-life models. The aircraft squadrons include those that were most numerous over the battlefield in December 1944. The P-47, B-26, Messerschmitt 109, Junkers 88, and Messerschmitt 262. Extensive research using the most modern sources available has assured an accurate and complete order of battle. Also included are optional random events that will provide additional challenges for those inclined. Scenarios will include the campaign game, the 6th Panzer Army, 5th Panzer Army, 7th Army, Patton's Relief of Bastogne, and the Race to the Meuse. Isn't that how that river's pronounced? I thought so. A Time for Trumpets is for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, and carries an MSRP of, wait for it, I told you this is a monster game, $149.99. So Grade A says, I hear there is a crap load of counters in this game, 12 counter sheets. You, sir, would be correct. There are 12 counter sheets in this game. I have to be honest. As much as I hate to say, because I love GMT, this is not going to be a game that's up my alley whatsoever. First off, they start talking right off the bat. It's like, oh, the systems from these 1970s games are being used, and I'm like, no, no thanks, no. So it's just, I'm sorry. It's just, I just don't want that sort of, I don't need that kind of crunch. I really don't. But I mean, this is a monster game for those out there who are like really looking forward. It's Maz. According to a grade A, the river is pronounced Maz. Maz. Buzz. It's Mars now. It's Maz. Anyway, out of the new games that are coming from GMT, this piques my interest the least. It really does. It's just too much just old hex and counter kind of design. And I understand there's, wow, we've got, this order of battle that's just amazing. One thing I have not heard anything about from this is actual gameplay. And there has been some chatter behind the scenes from gamers out there saying, how do you play it? I want more info about how the game plays. I don't care about an order of battle. So, plus it's another bulge game for crying out loud. And I know there are people out there who are like, oh, we could never have enough Battle of the Bulge games. And I'm like, yes, you can. Certainly can. All right. And like I said, I'm not knocking this game. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from picking it up because I know there are gamers out there who love those monster games. It's just not, it's just not my thing. So, I mean, if it shows up, I will certainly provide an unboxing and show off all 12 of those counter sheets. The maps actually look pretty cool too, but anyway, let's move on to some role-playing game news because the creators behind Kobolds Ate My Baby, Ninth Level Games, has a new role-playing game that's out. Here's the dope on Business Wizards, a role-playing game in the arcane world of business. In the same vein as Kobolds Ate My Baby, this new polymorph title brings much silliness and a meta take on both business and wizards. Fans of Kobolds Ate My Baby and other polymorph games will both love clocking into this adventure. In Business Wizards, you are a bizzard. That means you are a wizard who is all business. You solve your daily problems with magic and sorcery rather than good old-fashioned work ethic. Do you love a challenge? Can you cast legendary spells on time and under budget? Are your illusionary projections actually illusions? Join a magically powered up team with flexible hours and competitive treasure / experience share. Only highly proficient communicators and ace spellcasters need apply. Experience with crystal balls, PCs, and NPCs is a plus. In Business Wizards, you can attend staff meetings, get mad at the mimic copier, chat around the gelatinous cube cooler, summon coffee, and much more. The 76-page PDF is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $14.99. I believe you can also get the physical book from Ninth Level Games for $14.99. I have to laugh. So the manager setup that we've got here just cracks me up because I think it's the next one. Yep, there we go. You might not be able to see it, but there's a coffee. Well, you can obviously see it's a coffee cup at the top of the staff, but it has like a wizard Garfield. I just thought that was kind of funny. And I would have been the manager because that's what I was way back in the, well, I shouldn't say way back in the day. It hasn't been that long. But yeah, spent many years in management. Exciting. So I got a kind of an interesting story because I am going to get a chance to see Business Wizards because I reached out. Okay, so here's the story. So everybody out there who watches the show or follows the channel, whatever, they know that I am a fan of old school role-playing games. So I reviewed the deluxe edition of Kobolds Ate My Baby, which is not OSR, a few years ago. And I thought it was a blast. I thought it's a riot and gave it a really good score. So I stumbled across Business Wizards and I thought, oh, that's kind of funny. And it's from the same folks who did Kobolds Ate My Baby. And I was like, I wonder if Ninth Level Games has ever applied this system. Now they call it the polymorph system. And I got to be honest, I think it's fairly similar to what Kobolds Ate My Baby rules were. Probably just kind of like polished up a little bit as far as being kind of a core system, right? So I thought to myself, I'm like, I wonder if Ninth Level Games has ever actually utilized that system, which is actually pretty interesting, to a more serious role-playing game. And sure enough, they have. So, and it's funny because I've I've heard the title before. I knew really nothing about it. It's Mazes. And probably the reason why I didn't know much about it is because it's not available in PDF, but it's in little like digest sized books, kind of like original Dungeons and Dragons. And I thought, wow, that's pretty wild. So I reached out to the folks over at Ninth Level Games, and Heather O'Neill got back to me, and we are going to get to take a look at Business Wizards. I believe it's called The Excellence. It's kind of a princess role-playing game. Yeah, I know. Hey, I don't have any problem sharing family role-playing games. And we're going to get to see mazes, I should say. But that was pretty cool. So big thanks to Heather O'Neill. We should be seeing those. She had mentioned in her email that they would be sending this stuff out this week. Sweet. Because here's the thing I'm kind of interested in, and I've mentioned this before, and I am going to actually talk a little bit about RPGs after the news. One of the aspects that I look for is I like the old school renaissances. I like to say renaissance. Some people say revival. Some people say there's new school too, which is similar to old school, just different sort of mechanics. I kind of go more that direction because I like to look at games that have that old school vibe without going into it's just a retro clone of OD&D or AD&D. So a grade A says it's designed for episodic play, perfect for one-shots and convention play. A grade A, are you just going and taking this from the Kickstarter page? Because that's exactly what that says. Yes, I already know that. Sometimes I wonder about you, a grade A. Anyway, so that was actually a grade A brings up a good point. So I'm kind of curious if there's any kind of like leveling system to it, because essentially what it is, the polymorph system is that you've got these different kind of character roles within your party, and each of those roles gets a specific gaming die, and I think it goes as high as maybe D12, maybe it's D10. And so a grade A says, I backed the Kickstarter. Sweet. I should ask a grade A, have you received it? Anyway, so depending on what sort of character role you have, not necessarily class, but the role in the group, if you have like a larger die, like say a D10, you have kind of a rather narrow, like I would assume, I'm guessing, like, if you're the like barbarian or something, I would think you're just the combat guy or gal. And I'm assuming that that's the ones who get like the bigger dies. And then if you're kind of like a wizard or something like that, or somebody who has like more skills, maybe you're like a rogue kind of character, your die is a little smaller, but you're able to utilize that die more often. So I guess as far as it works out is that, say for an example, your character has a D10, that's a die they're always going to roll. So at least that's the way I remember it from Kobolds Ate My Baby. So I'm assuming it's very similar. Grade A says that he has not received mazes yet. So the other aspect of mazes that really kind of jumped out to me, and I know you're like, is this a news piece about mazes? Or were you talking about Business Wizards, Jeff? Thing that really kind of draws me in, I want to check it out, is I hear through the grapevine, and I might be wrong, that it's very easy to port over like old D&D adventures and things like that, because I would love to kind of I was going to say expose, but that sounds a little odd. I want to expose my niece and nephew. I want to share those kind of adventures with like my nephew Cameron, I think my niece Madison's getting to the point where she's old enough. She might get a bigger kick out of role playing games than she did a couple years ago when we tried to get her to play. She was like 12. But I want to take a look. I want to take a look at that because I like old school. I just don't necessarily want all the crunch of old school. That's why I really do think like the Black Hack is really nicely put together. I believe we're going to actually get, speaking of the Black Hack, we're going to get to take a peek at Bastard Sword, or I should say, I think it's, what is it? Black Sword Hack, which is kind of a hack of the Black Hack, but it's more like Elric of Melna Bonnet sort of adventuring. So we've got some cool RPG stuff on the horizon. I just actually got a copy of The Dare, the Call of Cthulhu adventure. I forgot to bring it down here. That just arrived about 20 minutes before I went live. All right, let's go back to the news because now available in PDF for the Traveler role-playing game from Mongoose Publishing is Aliens of Charted Space Volume 1. Here's the dope. Aliens of Charted Space Volume 1 details 4 spacefaring cultures, 3 of them alien and 1 curiously familiar. These are the Shodani, humans transplanted from Earth to develop in far-off Zidant, or Gidant. Their well-ordered society is very different to the squabbling mini-states of the Vargar, despite sharing a common Terran ancestry. The Aslan and the Kree. It's not Kree, it's Kree. I don't know. It's a K apostrophe Kree. Anyway, those two, meanwhile, are polar opposites. Proud warriors and militant herd creatures. This book contains rules for creating travelers from each of these alien races, high guard additions and new ships, and central supply catalog entries for their new equipment. The Aslan. The Aslan Hirit lies to spinward of the Imperium and Soleimani Confederation, with a long history of warfare and border tensions. The interplay between its many warrior clans can seem incomprehensible to outsiders, but there are strict rules of courtesy and deference governing every interaction. Learn how the Hirit functions and why its young, landless warriors are a threat to all nearby civilizations. The Kree, the 2,000 worlds of the Kree, I don't know, are almost entirely forbidden to man-eating, I should say meat, not man-eating, meat-eating outsiders. On these worlds, the Kree have exterminated or domesticated all species of carnivore and have explicitly stated they intend to do the same to all meat-eating races in charted space. This book shows the role of family and clan in Kree affairs and why the Kree are the single greatest threat to charted space. Were all these guys a threat? The Vargar, descended from Terran wolves uplifted by the ancients, the Vargar are widely known for their obsession with personal charisma and their preference for raiding rather than building. Vargar states tend to be short-lived, built around a cult of personality rather than a nation. This book reveals how a raider or pirate band operates and how successful leaders transition from pirates to statesmen. And then we've got the Jodani. Transplanted long ago by the ancients, the Jodani developed a society based on the ability to wield psionic powers. Considered by many to be a thought police state, the Jodani consulate is stable, apparently benevolent, and its people are happy. Aliens of Charted Space Volume 1 reveals the secrets kept by the Terrachetl, or Guardians of Our Morality, and the Jodani Core Expeditions. This 304-page PDF is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $35.99. Yes, is Mongoose Publishing. So as we know with Mongoose Publishing, pretty pricey. Pretty pricey. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. You can't tell me that the 300-page book, if it's hardcover, which I assume they're probably going to make, are you telling me it's going to sell for like $72? I don't know. I don't know. And I say it all the time. I'm not going to harp on this. I like Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition. I think it's really well done. I have heard that some of the releases are less packed with value than others. But I think it would be such a much more popular system if Mongoose would at least rein in these prices for PDFs. If they want to charge a higher price for physical books, okay, that's up to them. But to be honest, I mean, come on, $36 for a digital file. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Well, speaking of, actually, I'll say let's flip the coin on this, because speaking of higher priced gaming materials, let's talk about free gaming materials, because you might want to get your hands on a very well received free adventure for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It's from author Kelsey Dion and the Arcane Library. I've got the dope on The Secrets of Skyhorn Lighthouse. Rumors of a rampaging sea monster have ground shipping traffic to a halt in the harbor. The characters discover that the Jade Lion has gone missing near Skyhorn Lighthouse and learn they must brave the open seas and cutthroat enemies in order to save the crew from a murky fate. So we have to assume the Jade Lion is a ship. That's inferred. The Secrets of Skyhorn Lighthouse is a 5 to 7 hour adventure for 5th level characters. Inside the Secrets of Skyhorn Lighthouse, you'll find 4 new monsters: Eelfolk, Eelfolk Hunter, Eelfolk Scourge, and the Eelfolk Stormcaller. Negotiations with pirates, underwater combat, and shark attacks. Spoilers! The Arcane Library's signature format to make running the adventure effortless. Printable handouts, references for monsters, PCs, and special treasure. There's also gorgeous maps designed for easy use with virtual tabletops, as well as a Fantasy Grounds conversion by Gwyndian. I'm guessing at that pronunciation. This 23-page adventure PDF, as well as their extras, is included absolutely free, since they included, should say available at Dungeon Masters Guild, and it is absolutely free. The PDF and included extras. So Philadelphia Piper has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Philly. Good to have you hanging out. Kind of a bit of a quiet chat tonight. That's okay. That's cool. That's no problem. So one of the reasons why I left this news piece for last is because this adventure is supposed to have had like 90,000 downloads and I think 250 5-star reviews, which just goes to show you how few people actually bother to give it a review score, right? So the big thing about this adventure is the format that the Arcane Library uses. Now, you probably don't see much of that in the images that I'm sharing. I'm sharing the images that are actually over on Dungeon Masters Guild. But this is something that I think is really important for people who enjoy role-playing games, because it doesn't matter how exciting, how entertaining that a published adventure, now we're talking a published adventure, is if you can't use it at the table. And that is a problem that we see a lot. So this is supposed to be really, really nicely presented as far as its formatting. I'm not one of these game masters where I believe in minimal prep. I believe in taking time to prep for adventures in that. Now, I don't necessarily need to invest, dozens of hours getting ready, but I'm not one of these people who just, everything seat of the pants, because I don't find those adventures very interesting, especially since I mainly run Call of Cthulhu. Seat of the pants horror games don't work, and they certainly are not going to be scary. But the way that I guess these adventures, and there are more adventures from the Arcane Library, have the formatting different. And I took a peek, and it's like a lot of bolding, a lot of, hey, let's get to the point. This is what's going on. Here you go. Some very kind of terse language, but not boring. Really, really thought, wow, that looks pretty cool. And give an example. And this is just a problem that we have with modern role-playing games. And you're probably not going to be able to see the actual text, but for an example, right? So this is the most recent adventure book from 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It's Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, which I did like. Wasn't my favorites of the 5th edition adventures, but I liked it enough. But the thing is, so here, like this blue box here, that's your read aloud text. So you're supposed to read that or paraphrase it, which I find funny because Wizards of the Coast themselves have said to not include more than 2 or 3 sentences of read aloud, because after that people tune out. But yet this book is from Wizards of the Coast. So we've got all of this information about this part of the adventure. It's just, how are you supposed to utilize this at the table, right? It's impossible. It really is. So essentially, and you know what? I'm not trying to pick on Wizards of the Coast, because Pathfinder is the same way. So this is 60 Feet Under. I just did a review of that. So it's the same kind of thing, where even if you're going through keyed locations, say on a bit of a dungeon delve or something like that, even with the keys, none of it is presented where it's like, okay, so the reality is, this is just my opinion. The reality is, when let's say we're doing a dungeon crawl, something like that, the information about a room should include what do the characters see? What do they maybe hear, smell, feel even? What is most apparent to them in the room? And then you can fill it out a little bit from there, right? So if there's the body of a slain giant in the middle of the room, be a pretty big room, right? I think that's the first thing people are going to notice, right? First thing the characters notice. And then maybe some of the furnishings, and maybe they notice that there's a chest in the corner and things like that. But I mean, the first thing they're going to notice is the corpse of the giant in the room. I believe that we should have, like, okay, what kind of interactivity happens with that? I mean, maybe nothing, you know? If you play like old school Renaissance fantasy games and they're like dungeon delves and that, you run across a statue, you're messing around with that statue. You're pulling on the arms, you're doing whatever, because it might do something, right? That's one of the things about like old school role-playing games is, yeah, you're supposed to like interact with things because weird, wacky stuff might actually happen. But the way these modern adventures are written, and I've stopped even bothering harping about it, because it's not getting any better. It's not changing. It's just kind of a given that these companies assume that players should just make notes or try to keep it all in their heads, or photocopy stuff to have available to them, or scan it, print off, whatever. to me, I just, I think that's one of the reasons why you see so many of these, so much modern role playing going to kind of a scene to scene sort of adventure where it's not like hex crawls and things like that. It's just what are the major scenes of this story, essentially like a movie. And you have a lot of stuff that goes on off screen as opposed to the old way of role playing games. And I think part of it is because things get so bogged down that, and that's one of the reasons why people don't get very far in their game sessions when they play as far as adventures, or they get like kind of like just railroaded through or just raced on through an adventure that they miss half, if not more, of the cool stuff that's actually in the adventure. So I am very interested. I am going to take a peek. Probably won't do a review, mainly because it's a PDF. But I am going to take a peek at this adventure from the Arcane Library. I should mention, now this is for 5th level. There is a complimentary 1st level adventure, which is available if you sign up for the Arcane Library's newsletter. And then there's a follow-up, I think it's a sequel to the Secrets of Skyhorn Lighthouse, which is a pay adventure. I think that one's a little bit longer. I think it's like 37 pages, something like that. So something to take a peek at, especially if you run or play 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons and you're looking to make your life easier as the dungeon master. Something to take a peek at. So Agrede says that they do not read aloud text. That others tell me to read aloud. I don't tend to. I don't read passages out of published adventures either. If it's supposed to be like, what I hate is when you run across something and it's like a page and a half of read aloud, and you're like, oh, absolutely not. It's like, for one, I as a player would not sit still for that, and I am very patient at a game table. But yeah, so Grade A says that they outline and flowchart any published adventure, list the big bad guy, marquee locations, puzzles, names, and that's it. What I tend to do is I will take major NPCs and I will kind of do a bullet point personality wise. I might throw 3 phrases, terms, words, what have you. It's going to be a better feel. Because, of course, I've already read the adventure, right? So I know what the NPCs are supposed to be like. But sometimes off the top of your head, you're like, wait a second, is this guy supposed to be kind of just a pain in the ass, or is he supposed to be a real jag? It's like, I don't remember. So I usually have the names. So I'll have like real quick, super quick notes. So nothing, crazy. But I'll have like the adventure in PDF on my iPad nearby to take a peek at during some downtime in that, But yeah, for the most part, I would not have this sitting open, just like in front of me behind a Game Master screen reading from it. That's no thanks. To me, that's boring. Sorry. I don't. All right. Scott Nelson's joined us in chat. Good to see you, Scott. Welcome aboard. So Scott says when they DM, they had to make sure the entire world was available in case they wanted to make it harder to DM and went anywhere they didn't think I had designed. Yes, players are famous for trying to, go off on their own, try to derail everything you've got set up. Depends on who you got in your group. So as an example, and I've mentioned this before, my best friend Elliot's nephew, Paul, was famous. Of course, he was like 13. Of course, we were like 15, 16, so it wasn't that big a deal, big difference, but it just had to have little Paul adventures during our Call of Cthulhu sessions. And yeah, I would humor him a little bit, but sometimes it would get a little too much. And I have to be like, yep, that's it. He learned his lesson, though, because when he went off on his little Paul adventures, his player characters had a nasty habit of dying. So, or losing all their cash that they were carrying on hand for some strange reason. I'm going to take my life savings with me and keep it in my pocket. So Philadelphia Piper says, I liked it when adventures were only about 20 to 50 pages long. These hardcover adventures are too long. Well, I look at it this way. So something like this, we figure with D&D, we get an adventure supplement if we're lucky every 6 months. So I don't mind the bigger hardcovers. Sometimes like with Pathfinder, and I do have my review of the third part of the Agents of Edgewatch coming very soon. It's done. I just have to finish some graphics on it. Anyway, but even like this, where these are coming out once a month, there's a lot of gameable material in here. So I could see really kind of, so I like Paizo. I have no issues with Wizards of the Coast or Paizo or essentially any role-playing game company off the top of my head. I'm sure there's somebody who's treated me poorly, but whatever. But if I were a game master running, say, Pathfinder, I would almost feel pressure to be like, okay, well, we only got a month to get through this because I got the next part of this campaign. So that's kind of funny. So Scott says, poor Paul. Yes, he eventually, because of course he got older, then we're playing and he's like, he's no longer 13 anymore. He's 17, he's 18, he's 20. So, but yeah, early on it was always like, oh, Paul had to have his adventures. I was like, okay, I'll humor you a little bit, but then sometimes it would be like, all right, bringing this to an end here. I'm going to give you a couple opportunities to get yourself out of this. And he just wouldn't do it. Well, okay, it's called Cthulhu, right? Come on. Fatalities happen all over the place. All right. Anyway, that is it for tonight's show. Well, actually, there's one last thing I do want to mention. So I guess there's some folks out there who are kind of, I don't know, I don't think the word confused would be right. They're kind of curious why I seem to be covering more role-playing games than before. And I will point out, I have always been a huge role-playing game fan. Always. It's, in some ways, I might actually probably be a bigger fan of role-playing games than I am some board games. But I also have to point out, we're in the midst of a pandemic. It's very difficult for me to get groups of people together in order to play, especially Elliot. It is very, very tough to get together to play stuff with Elliot. Whereas me reading through and taking some notes on a role-playing core book or role-playing adventure, I only need me. So, plus it's a good thing because if I didn't have role-playing game stuff to review, I'd be kind of stuck. Because, like I said, I mean, luckily, a couple of weeks ago, we got some gaming in. Got to play a couple of games this weekend. Not as much as I would have liked to, but it's not, like pre-pandemic. 1 or 2 days of the weekend, we could get a bunch of gaming in. So I don't know. All right. So Greg A says, who are these people asking about why are you reviewing role-playing games? I don't know. It's just, I guess, some people who've followed the gaming gang, maybe since the beginning. I mean, this is year 11, may have noticed that, there's fewer board game reviews compared to role-playing games. Now, there's not fewer reviews. In fact, I am rapidly approaching review 700, which I'm bouncing around, maybe doing live on an episode of The Daily Dope. I haven't decided yet. So Scott Nelson says the latest fighting fantasy type game book I got had 1,000 pages. That was odd. Wow. For fighting fantasy, which is, okay, so if I remember correctly, fighting fantasy is, if I remember, I think the author's name is Steve Jackson, but it's not Steve Jackson Games Steve Jackson. So, but that was like an older kind of, fantasy role-playing game from like early 80s-ish. But I think there's been new editions of that as well, I think. I might be wrong. I honestly, when I think of fighting fantasy, I think of the like computer games, like Sorcery. Steve Jackson Sorcery. Once again, not Steve Jackson Games, Steve Jackson. So I know it's easy to kind of mix those up. All right. Anyway, that's it. Now I'm wrapping up the show. So if you find that you liked this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because not only will it let you know when the Daily Dope streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube, it also let you know when I upload other videos, such as today's review of Crusader Kingdoms from Worthington Publishing. Nice. A Great A says Fighting Fantasy was from Ian and Steve from Games Workshop. Ching. Which was actually a real game store. I forget what area of London it was in, but it was a small game store. That was the Games Workshop. All right. Anyway, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Monday night / Tuesday morning. I will be back tomorrow. And of course, those of you who watch live, keeping me company in chat, thank you very much. I understand there are a lot of people out there who don't have an opportunity to watch live. They might be watching on Memorex. Thank you as well. I will be back tomorrow. And of course, during this never-ending pandemic, I certainly hope you're being smart and staying safe. Oh, you're still here. Well, once again, thank you very much for watching this video. And of course, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, click right here. And of course, if you want to see one of the latest episodes of the Daily Dope, click right on up here. And if you want to roll the dice, take your chances, see what YouTube thinks you might like from the channel, give a click right here. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I'll see you next time.